Okay, I believe we are live. Let me just mute that. Okay, yeah. I think is a big word there. I think we are live right now. We
Yeah,
will we will
we are.
find out at some point. Oh, yeah. Okay, well that's grand. All right.
Yeah.
How's it going, man? How is it going?
How could I be sad? How could I be sad? I got to
Okay.
watch the Snyder Cut after 3 years, so I'm happy.
I think I did the math. I think it was like 3 years and 4 months or something like that since the theatrical cut came out. It's insane,
I,
right?
I remember going to that and I remember going up in the night to watch that and
Yeah.
then being left unfulfilled.
I remember I went to see it by myself, and when I just finished it, and I was kind of like, huh, yeah, all right,
Yeah,
I mean, different, and it just like it never really hit me that it wasn't like immediately it wasn't like, was that a Zack Snyder film? Like, whether you like him or not, his films are recognizable, right? And it's just like you come out of that and you think, was that his film? Was that really? And then it's just like, yeah, you hear the first thing that comes out of like, oh yeah, the real thing's like 4 hours long. And you're like, oh, the real thing was like 2:14 was the original thing, right? And then it's like,
yeah,
Jesus, like what the hell happened to this movie?
yeah. I was thinking to myself that, oh, maybe he didn't get to finish the movie,
It's just like, yeah,
and Josh Whedon had to come in and do the best job that he could have, and he didn't have much time. That's what my argument was
mm,
straight away after. I was in denial. I was saying, Snyder had a terrible tragedy, so he stepped away. LeBron, the Avengers director, he did the best thing he could, and look, it just ended up being a mess.
yeah, I
And maybe
think,
they should have pushed the film back further and stuff like that. But I just thought, but then after going back to the trailers and stuff, I knew that there was so much scenes that weren't in the movie. So
yeah, I think I remember when I first heard about Joss being brought on. My first like um release, well, no, my first feeling was kind of a sense of relief because I thought, okay, well, if this film for whatever gets whatever reception, at least people won't just be able to just shit on Zack like they usually do. At least they'll say, oh, well, Joss was brought in, and he's from the MCU, and he's got one really good film under his belt, and Age of Ultron a bit less so, but like in terms of the general reception of it, and you're like, okay, well, maybe
yeah,
people, even if it means that Zack doesn't get all the praise, maybe people will just kind of shut up about some of the stupid things that they come out with. Oh God, I couldn't have been any more wrong in that at
yeah.
all. But
But that this isn't that movie, so we got to see something a whole lot different.
I mean, and thank God for that. I mean, it's.
Good.
I was talking to who's I talking? I think I was talking to my brother about this, and I was just saying that it's kind of it's unfortunate, but because of everything that happened, we essentially got, in terms of the cut of the movie that we got, we essentially got the best possible outcome. It's as we've heard from like numerous things where Zach was like, oh yeah, Warner Bros just said, hey, we're interested in releasing it. Can you just release what you've got? And from the side of things, that would have been a very, very bad viewing experience that nobody would have
Yeah,
been interested in. And then we could have potentially had the 2:14 cut, and if it wasn't for HBO Max, if it wasn't for, I mean, as horrible as it is, if Zach didn't have to step down in the first place, if all of these things didn't happen, then we may have got a 3 hour cut or a 2.5 hour cut or whatever. And then Zach could have been, if it was a 2.5 hour cut or a 3 hour cut, Zach could have been going, I've actually got an even longer cut that I prefer. And then it just be, okay, we'll just put that on Blu-ray and we'll just forget about it. But if you're Warner Bros right now, if you're your Toby Emmerichs or your Walter Hamadas, you're just ruining the day, and you are so angry that you didn't just say, all right, Zach, just release a director's cut on Blu-ray. We'll give you like 10 million to do some VFX. Release like a 2.5 hour cut, and we're done. And
yeah,
instead, here we go, 4 hour cut. It's everyone loves it, and it's got incredibly good reviews. We're about to get all the figures and stats over the next couple of days, and like it's insanity. I think it's like in the top like 80 films on IMDb of all time at the moment, which is like,
yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, it's like we got to see the film, but even back in 2017, if they just let Zach release his movie, they could have just said, right, this universe is over. You ended your trilogy. Let's just move on and do something else now, you know. But
yeah.
they just made it worse for themselves because after the years of hype, now we have 4 hours to watch and digest. So it's perfect for us.
See, this is the thing. You were jammy because you got to see it like 4 or 5 days early, wasn't it? You got like a
Last Saturday, this day week, I watched it.
you got a really nice head start on that. So
Yeah,
what was it like after you'd finished it and you just knew that you couldn't say anything to anybody? Like how is that as a feeling? Because that's got to be a very rare thing.
yeah, because the minute I finished it, I had to go on Real Talk Live with KC. we had to do, we had to review the trailers that had come out, the character trailers. Like
Oh
we knew
yeah,
exactly what happened in each scene and stuff, and we just had to review the video as they were presented. We couldn't say it, it was very hard, but yeah, it was insane. Like I was talking to my family who don't care.
yeah.
It's like yeah, did you remember this scene? They're like, yeah, I watched it once. That's okay. Keep talking about it. So I kept going on about it. But yeah, I had a few friends who had seen it early as well, so I was in a group chat with those
uh,
talking about it. So that kind of helped. But then now everyone has seen it. Nearly everyone has seen it. Now I just can't stop talking about
I mean, all right. What was like the one thing out of the whole movie that you were just like itching to talk to somebody about? Obviously, it's really hard to pick one, and you can't just say the whole movie, all right? Because that's what I
it.
would do.
Yeah,
That's not fair.
it has to be the Joker scene. Like that's Snyder wrote that himself, and it's insane the piece of dialogue that's in it about Harley Quinn, about Robin, multiple timelines, Lois Lane. If that scene, my mouth was on the ground watching that scene because I just been waiting for so long for these two characters to interact with Affleck and Leto. First time since The Dark Knight, and
Mm.
then to see the two of them go at it, brilliant. It's a pity they weren't in the same room when they shot that scene, because I'm sure they probably would have had some sort of fight or something like that.
Mm. It probably would have been someone
But
grappling him by the throat or
yeah,
something.
yeah, but I love that scene so much. The whole look of it, and then Superman coming down with the red eyes, crazy.
I did respect the I guess the resourcefulness of them reusing shots from Man of Steel. They do it a couple of times in the movie, but it's still done very well. And this was one of the
Yeah,
things I was thinking about, right? That there are a couple moments where you can. This is going to make it sound like I'm speaking like ill of the film, but there are maybe like one or two shots where you can kind of go, right, I think that was one of the things that they've had to either do from scratch or like restore since they got the green light. Like I would say Cyborg's nightmare vision where you see inside the Batcave is one example. And possibly Superman coming down in the nightmare sequence, as you said. And it's like part of me was obviously the obvious temptation when you see something like that is you say, oh, it took me out of the film, it distracted me. But
yeah,
part of that kind of like resonated with me even more because of the fact that I'm like, I know why maybe that could look a little bit inconsistent with the rest of the film's CG, which is 10 out of 10 in my opinion. And it's like
yeah,
because they had to do this during COVID and it was all done over Zoom calls to no end with a lesser budget and a really short time frame, and
yeah.
it's like it kind of just strikes a bit of a chord with you because you're like, that is fucking impressive for what they managed to do. If they say, if Zack says, hey, we've got limited time, but I want you to destroy the Batcave and I want you to have Superman on his knees with Darkseid right next to him, and they'd be like, okay, and they deliver what they delivered, like, holy shit.
Yeah, it was only a quick scene, but it looked good.
Yeah.
And if you're not like us who know who Superman was holding, Lois Lane,
Mhm.
people would be like, oh my God, who is that? Is it Lois Lane? Is it his mother? Who exactly is that? So yeah, I thought it added to the grittiness of the scene, to the actual,
Mhm.
oh my God, this is a nightmare. This is something that would be terrible to happen. So yeah, I did like it. Even the nightmare sequence with Joker and Deathstroke, that scene, like not like the CGI wasn't unbelievable, but it wasn't focusing on the CGI. It was just focusing on these
Yeah.
characters on the bridge, and that's all it had to be really. And the background kind of added to it, Mad Max style and
But it's just like knowing
Apocalypse.
that I mean, it's more of a thing for us, as you said, knowing that that's just them getting together with COVID restrictions, Zach filming it himself, and it's just that really kind of intimate, gritty moment. Like just knowing that was additional photography, that was Zach saying, no, I've got another scene I want to add. And he
Yeah,
managed to bring these people back, and knowing that that's Ben back in the suit for the first time since he shot, knowing all of these little bits and pieces, behind the scenes stuff, it just, like, I wouldn't change anything about that scene. I wouldn't want them to go back and spend another, however much money on making the CG perfect. I wouldn't want them to go back and change anything. for what it is, it's just those little nuggets for people like us who have, been, trying to get this movie released for years. You then have a moment like that where you're like, wow, I kind of appreciate it a little bit more than if it was completely flawless, completely perfect. But that's not to say it was bad by any stretch. I have to make sure that comes across, because I'm not shitting on that at all.
It got the main message across, which was, oh my god, that's what it was. And Joker, Batman interacting, Superman comes down. It didn't have to be amazing or anything. Like, even the shot of Henry Cavill coming down in the nightmare sequence with the red eyes, like, that's from Batman v Superman. That blended in well. It didn't seem out of place or anything. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I didn't like CGI. I don't really. It looks like it looked really good in the film, but the times it didn't take me over, right?
Yeah, and it's like, this is the thing. You have to be like so careful with what we're saying here. It's like there's no point where we're saying the CGI was bad. It's just there are little moments where you can kind of just tell that something's, this isn't CG that they'd already had finished and they were just, transferring over or anything like that. But that just kind of resonated with me a little bit more. So I'm like, maybe if the whole film, they took the CG to like 95% quality, I would have had that experience for the whole movie. I would have been like, COVID and shooting it with limited time, whatever. But it's just, I mean, that was the whole stuff with Superman in the Batcave and stuff like that. Like, I really wasn't expecting that at all. Like, I obviously, it's one of those things that that was Zack's plan for how Justice League 2 was meant to end, I believe. His original plan. Yeah. So I wasn't expecting anything like that in this. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, what? This madman actually fucking just went, just put in that shot. Just do it. Just make that shot of Darkseid in the cave. I was like, what the fuck?
Because we thought that there would be another nightmare sequence that he did back in 2016. But it looks like maybe he didn't, or maybe he just shot one scene with Cyborg, and the rest of it he was going to add in later on in post-production, but never got to do it. This time he did get to do it, and it was, I couldn't believe it. It was crazy.
I mean, it's just, I think the funeral pyre or whatever with Wonder Woman being cremated, I think that was just, that was obviously that really like hit me as like a Jesus Christ, this is dark. Like, okay, and then making Hippolyta or whatever watch her daughter who's dead, be cremated. I'm thinking that's Darkseid, I'm guessing, trying to corrupt the Amazons with the anti-life equation, perhaps, in the same way that happens with Superman, just kind of break their spirit. Part of me was like, I was really kind of hoping we'd see like a character that we like get turned into a parademon. I know that's like, I really thought that regardless of whether that was something that they didn't want in the film or whether it was Whedon or I don't care. The idea of seeing someone turn into a parademon I thought was a really fucking creepy thing. So seeing that to a character we love, I thought would have been... I was waiting for that to happen, but then just seeing that she was crying and her soul's being broken, I was like, Darkseid, you're one evil motherfucker. Holy shit.
And you can see Darkseid in the background. Did you notice that?
He's on the ship,
coming off the ship.
Yeah.
Coming down to watch, make sure everything's going the way it's supposed to. But and then the Robin costume in the background of the show was a Batcave. So I think it was done really nice. And then Cyborg seeing all this, his own version of the nightmare world.
It's just that moment, because the whole time I go through the film, I'm waiting for the nightmare scene. I thought it was going to be like a BVS. We're going to have this 5-minute, scene that's not additional photography that's set in the nightmare world. So like that just hit me like a truck. I really was not anticipating Cyborg was going to have this vision, and then I think as soon as you see Wonder Woman be burning, you're like, okay, is he actually gonna like show everything that he was planning on doing? And he just did, and I'm like, okay, that's Wonder Woman, that's Aquaman, okay, holy shit, I mean, that was just, it makes you wonder when it comes to sequels, which just touch wood, like, how do they not happen at this point? It makes you think how much he's going to change it up, because those storyboards are out in the public. Obviously, a large proportion of his fans, like us, we know what his plans were. He said himself that he has new stories, but like, how do you top the original idea? That's dark as hell. Like, Superman's still falling to the anti-life, I could see, but maybe, I don't know, it happens under different circumstances. But like, how the hell do you top that?
I think he's going to add to it, definitely, because he's been sitting on the idea for 4 years now since he shot Batman v Superman and Justice League. He probably has thought of new crazy ideas to bring to it and think, oh, that'd be cool if I did this, And like the storyboards that we got to see that are in Dallas in the exhibition, they would change a lot. You know that they didn't have Deathstroke, they didn't have Joker.
Mm.
This universe does, you know, so it would change a lot. But yeah, him adding in those scenes, and we found out yesterday that Warner Bros. Didn't want to add any scenes whatsoever. Like, and he just did it anyway. Shows you how smart Zach is. He's gonna keep people wanting to see this more, this universe, and especially the Nightmare World.
Mm.
It was definitely tactical from Zach to add a nightmare scene into this movie because he probably knows that that was probably one of the most talked about things in Batman v Superman,
Mm-hmm.
and also a thing that he was criticized for because what's this mean? What's it like? Where's this lead to? Why is this scene just shoehorned in here? This is what it leads to. It leads to Superman losing Lois, Darkseid taking over, this interaction between Joker and Batman. So I was my favorite scene from the whole film, and I'm glad he added it in.
Yeah, and I think there's if one thing has become abundantly clear is that whether you're a fan of Zack or not, it's irrelevant. Warner Bros. Cannot win against him. Like every single thing that they have done to try and, you know, crush any sort of desire for his movies has just gone horribly, horribly wrong. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy to think that now you could say, like as I said right at the start, Warner Bros. Best course of action would have just been, Zach, here's a little bit of cash, straight to DVD, we're done.
yeah,
Maybe we're not assholes like that, but have that cul-de-sac conversation way earlier down the line and just say, that's it, all right? And now it's like, oh yeah, I mean, in all fairness, I don't really think anyone could have, anticipated what was to come, but to then get to the point where they're just sat there going, okay, the general audience absolutely loves this movie. It's one of the, highest rated comic book movies of all time.
yeah,
And everyone wants sequels, and critics are all, not all, but a large, majority of critics all want sequels. And everyone wants all of the stuff that exists within the Snyderverse to carry on. And Zach got to do his movie and put in as many teasers and have as many interviews about stuff he would like to see happen as a result of this film come out. It's like, you couldn't have done, if you want a lesson in disaster management, do the exact opposite of what Warner
yeah.
Bros. Did, because it's impressive how bad they handled the whole situation.
This is the biggest, has to be the biggest comic book movie of all time. Like Infinity War and Endgame were pretty huge, but I don't think they had this much action in terms of
Hmm.
wow, Themyscira, Atlantis, Superman versus the League, Justice League versus Steppenwolf, Superman comes down. You know, like, there's so much action in this entire movie that I don't think any other comic book movie has done something as huge scale as this yet. Like the other films, like an Endgame, have been huge, but because of what the film represents, this film was just huge in terms of action as well, and
Hmm.
these characters introduced. So yeah, I enjoyed it big time. It was a huge film. 4 hours flew by like it was 2 hours. It didn't feel like the runtime whatsoever. You know,
No.
I couldn't believe I was sitting there watching it at times either, but it just got better and better. And I just thought some of the dialogue as well, some of the music choices, it just fit really well for me, and I enjoyed it a lot. People were saying, like, where do you rate it in your DCU? I don't really know if I want to rate it anywhere, rank it anywhere. I don't know if I want to say it's better than Man of Steel or Batman v Superman because I just enjoyed this movie and it was so much fun and I loved it so much.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's definitely, as we briefly touched on before we went live, is like I have only seen it once as of
Excuse me.
no worries, but part of me thinks like, shit, I need to watch it again. But when should I? But then I thought back to BVS and I saw the theatrical cut of that, like I think I saw it like 6 times in the cinemas, right? Because I just fucking loved it.
Yeah.
But the gap between the first and the second viewings were like a week, and then the second through sixth were like all in the space of a week. Like I just went to the cinema way too many times. So it's like I just need that first time to just settle in, and every day I'd like think more about the film, and I'm like, Jesus, I can't believe that was in the. I can't. Oh my god, and then it's like things are clicking, and I'm seeing more appreciation for it. I think the second time I'd say I think I would just be a complete emotional wreck throughout the whole thing because it would have finally registered that this film is actually here and freely viewable by anyone whenever you want to watch it
Yeah.
after all of it. So I don't know. It's just second time round will definitely be a much more intense viewing experience, I think.
Yeah, this one is more for general audiences, I think. Like a
Mm.
Man of Steel is pretty heavy, and it's kind of you might not get into it because of maybe the way it looks, and maybe the way it tells its story. And Batman v Superman, the same. Like they're pretty heavy stories, but this one has some hopeful moments, some inspirational moments, some dark moments as well. But I just think for a general audience point of view, I think that's why they're enjoying it more. There's some music put into it as well, it makes it like feel I don't know more open to what it's trying to convey instead of just score. And like I watched it with my family who aren't big comic book movie fans or don't know anything about Man of Steel, Bambi Street. They know like my brothers and sisters know like the main points. Like 'cause I've been talking about it for so long. But in terms of them just sitting down to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, they had a great time. They loved it. They loved the action. They actually found it very funny. I actually thought it was funny as well.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious, some of the comedic moments that are in it. They're not like Dumb and Dumber comedic moments. They're like subtle, grounded humor, like with Alfred and Deanna, like with Barry. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And even Bruce's humor as well. It didn't stand out. And it was in the right format. Like even some of the jokes from 2017, they worked in this one because of the way the film was edited, but what happened in the scene. And it just felt more kind of, you felt there was more kind of breathing room with all the characters. So yeah, I loved it so much, and the scale, it just seems more like a general audience movie because of what Zach put into it. And people are going to say like, oh, well, Zach had to do that because Warner Brothers made him, so it was actually a studio decision. I don't think so, because back in March, even in 2016, Deborah Snyder was saying that, oh, Justice League is going to be a different feel because there's new characters being introduced. Barry Allen, she was saying, is actually more comedic relief in the film, and it ended up being true. So that wasn't a studio note per se. Like, you're going to add in three characters like an Aquaman, Cyborg, and a Flash. They can't be the exact same as Batman and Superman or Wonder Woman. Like, they have to have their own personalities, and they do in this movie. And Aquaman and Flash, even Cyborg, have comedic moments in it. They have heavy moments, and I think it works and it blends pretty well. I think if this movie was 2 hours, many people are saying it might be a great 2 hour movie. I don't think so. No. I just think there's so much. No, I can't think of anything I would cut out really that much. I think it flows beautifully, and I just enjoy watching the film. I watched it like 6 or 7 times now, and I don't get tired of any part. But some movies, even movies you're like, oh, this part here is kind of boring. I just didn't feel that for any of this movie because it flows so well.
Yeah, I mean, and it's when you think about whether the kind of more upbeat nature is a studio thing, it's like, okay, if that was a studio decision, you've got Justice League for that. You have that's a studio enforced. Make it funny, make it lighthearted, and then Zack goes and does it a million miles better. So you're like, okay, well, if this is the same guy who gave us BVS, this very dark movie, like, I think he kind of knew what he was doing when it came to the tone of the two movies, if he's capable of delivering on two sides. But I mean, yeah, I think like a thought experiment would be, I wonder, it goes off what you were saying about how this is definitely has a bit more wider appeal, general audience wise. I think because of the fact that just purely on the basis that it's a bit lighter in tone than BVS is, which is what people kind of come to expect of the genre, which is a bit unfortunate, but I think Zack's Justice League does a good job of kind of getting people to go, okay, yeah, there's the whole MCU stuff, but I'm going to do the lighthearted humor and stuff in a much more kind of serious and toned down way, a bit more of a mature way. And it worked, right? It worked really, really fucking well, as we've seen by other reviews. But it's like, part of me wonders if, like, going off that crowd pleaser point, well, not crowd pleaser, but you know what I mean, how things would have gone down if maybe this was BVS instead of Justice League. If BVS was this film that got hijacked, and then we got Zack's, direct ultimate edition of BVS was released on HBO Max. So, like, I wonder how things would have gone down then, because a large portion of these Justice League reviews are just saying it's fantastic because it's way fucking better than what we got. I think that would probably still carry over, but like, would people have been like as on board with it as they would have in Justice League? I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to think about.
It would have been easier to change Justice League than change Batman v Superman, because Justice League that we know of, we've already seen the Snyder Cut, actually had some comedic moments in it, had some lighter moments in it, so it's easier to go back and kind of shoot similar scenes like that. But the ones that we didn't put in weren't even funny. He changed scenes like no need to. Even John Campea was saying, okay, I like the Snyder Cut happened, Josh Whedon came in and did his thing, but John Campea's point of view was like, why go back and make these scenes again? It's already shot, it's already done. Snyder's already shot scenes like this. Why go back and make the exact same scene but change the dialogue up and spend another 100 million to just change the movie? And Campea was like, well, if you just want to make it 2 hours, then just release this movie, get a good editor in and make this movie 2 hours and put it out in theaters instead of bringing in another director and changing the whole thing up, because his argument was you didn't need to bring another director in because all the film was shot.
Yeah.
Which is a good point.
You would have saved like a couple $100 million, as you say. Like you wouldn't have had to have gone through all of this. And then, at the very least, if it's poorly received, you can say, okay, well, Zach, that's 2 films that have been panned by the general audience. We're going to try something different. Instead, they go for, let's just hijack his movie while he's grieving. Let's reshoot 75. No, let's cut out half of it and reshoot the other 75% that's left.
Yeah.
Then let's release it and completely, alter the trajectory for a subsequent film. And then when it's panned, we're then gonna cave to fan pressure in 3 years' time. Again, it's like it's completely nonsensical how the whole thing was handled. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, just cut Zack's film down to 2 hours, 2 hours 10. Endgame showed that people can handle a 3-hour movie. He cut it to 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. Something that Zack would be happy with. And then there you go, I mean, hindsight's 2020, whatever, who cares? But there were just a million ways that this could have been handled a lot better. But that being said, we're very grateful that they mishandled the release of Zack's stuff, not necessarily the hijacking. But I mean, it's ridiculous.
Even Barcelona B goes, Zack's humor was better than Whedon's, and it was. I did laugh out loud, Yeah, and it worked really well. But even in this film, there's so much character development for Flash, for Cyborg, for Aquaman, and I love that Flash scene where he saves Iris West is probably one of my favorite scenes from the whole movie. I just thought it was beautifully done. The slow-mo, Barry's moving at his speed, but Iris in the car is very slow. The music comes in. I just thought it was a very beautiful scene. It just made me kind of take in awe that what this movie is. Even Cyborg's backstory with his parents, very heartbreaking. And Ray Fisher gave a hell of a performance. He was absolutely fantastic.
He was.
And I thought that maybe Aquaman didn't have that much to do. It felt like that was being left for his solo movie, because that was supposed to kind of come next, which it did with James Wan, and did its own thing and made a lot of money and was a success. But it's a very different Aquaman from that movie, and even Volko and Mira are very different as well. But still, I enjoyed Aquaman. I thought his action scenes were brilliant. But for me, one of the standouts was definitely Flash and Cyborg. But I really like Ezra Miller as Flash. I just think his comedic moments were brilliant, his dramatic moments were brilliant, and his action sequences were, even in the final act, or kind of the final act, he's running and turning back time to help the League. I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think one of the tweets I saw today that raised a really good point is that moment where he saves all the people that they save from Steppenwolf, and he catches all the debris, and he's just running so fast you're seeing like 10 flashes on the screen at once. Like, that's literally like 15 seconds. Why would you get rid of that? It's like one of his best moments of the whole film, and shows just how like competent he is. He's not this inexperienced guy. I think in the past I said that one of the things that I appreciated on its own was Bruce being like a mentor to him in the theatrical cut, but I remember last time I had that conversation, you say that, and then the next time you think is, well, what about when he appeared in Suicide Squad, and he's like all, taunting Captain Boomerang, and he's all like confident and cocky. It's like, well, I much prefer that, the whole Bruce being a mentor to other members of the League and kind of taking added responsibility in, to help his arc. That's cool, but this Flash is so much better, and you have a scene like that in Zack's Justice League, where, he saves like 10 people from all of this debris, and then Cyborg comes in to save, the final piece, and you're like, why would you get rid of it? It's literally like 25 seconds. What is the purpose in getting rid of that? And then again, I did see another tweet today. It was literally sort of like 20 minutes ago. It was about how Steppenwolf's like hiding out or whatever in Stryker's Island in Zack's cut, but in the theatrical cut, it's like Braxton's Island or something like that. Like, why? What is the point? The only thing I could think of was that Stryker's Island came up in BVS. So Joss, for some reason, is just like, I'll get rid of every mention of BVS. If I could, I would just get Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman out of this movie, But
even they changed the picture of the parademon, and that was changed as well. That was redrawn. Zack's one was different than Whedon's, so crazy. But like Cyborg was sidelined big time in the 2017 film with all the scenes. But this one, he was brilliant. I thought even this scene where he's playing football and he's driving in the car with his mother and he's crying because his father couldn't be there. Then he puts his hand. He puts his hand out to kind of, the car is coming towards him, and he puts his hand in front of his mother, which is brilliant. He also does the same thing when his father sacrifices himself to heat up the mother box. Puts his hand out. So I just thought that kind of was brilliant. And then Ray Fisher, Cyborg helping the woman and her kids,
Mm-hmm.
giving her money. Beautiful scene. Like I don't know how you cut that out and put in a scene where he only says "booyah" and stuff like that. It's a bit ridiculous, but yeah, that scene right there was very good. And yeah, I just think Ray Fisher now is proving that he is Cyborg, and Warner Brothers cutting him out of the Flash movie is a bad mistake. That's I was kind of predicting that he would kill it in this role in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean we've got positive signs that Casey Clemens is coming back in the Flash movie, so it's like there is a process going on of getting these people back. So it's like, how do you keep Ray Fisher out of that movie? You know, you bring him back, and all of a sudden, like everyone who likes the general audience who likes the Snyder Cut and wants to see more, has
Yeah,
Flash movie coming out and has Flash and Cyborg, who have arguably, as you say, like the biggest redemptions from um, the theatrical cut of
yeah,
Justice League, to then be like, oh, they're going to be in a film together. Like hell yeah, I want to see that. I
yeah.
just think that's a no brainer. But obviously, as a matter of principle, it kind of pisses off the execs of Warner Bros. But I wanted to add to the stuff you're saying that you like about Cyborg. One of my favorite shots of the whole movie is when he's standing there watching her get, she's just seen that she's won like $100,000 or something like that, and it's like the shot of them all in frame, and then it cuts to the close up of Cyborg, and he's got the rain on his head. That shot is just beautiful. It looks
Yeah.
so real and so like legit. And then obviously, he's smiling and he's like, wow, I actually, got to do something incredible with these gifts. And he's kind of, his perception on his new reality has started to shift. But then he turns around and starts walking off, and then like couples see him and kind of jump away because they're frightened of him. And it's like, that is his character in this film in a
Yeah.
nutshell. That is everything. And it communicates the whole thing in space of about 15 seconds. Like, yeah, it's infuriating how you get rid of some of this stuff. Really, really boggles the mind.
Yeah, and the voiceover from his father as well, and those types of
Mm,
scenes really helps. Adds a lot of weight to it. And Cyborg, like I've been saying as well to build up to the movie, that Cyborg is one of the most powerful beings in the universe because he was born out of the mother box. The
yeah.
mother box hold this energy, and even was it Zack said it, or even Ray was talking about that Cyborg can be more powerful or as powerful as Doctor Manhattan.
Mm,
So it just shows you the power that he has, and he's learning about all this power. I think it's a fascinating character. It would be a fascinating solo movie for Cyborg to understand his powers even more, especially in today's world of technology. Everything
mm,
is powered. I think that there's such a fascinating story that you could tell there, whether it be a HBO Max series or a movie. That's something that I've kind of been saying for a while. That a series with Cyborg. Not only is he a black superhero, but he's a disabled superhero,
mm,
and that can like imagine the amount of people in the world who have disabilities and they look at Cyborg as a character. Wow, I have a disability and he's a disability, but he's a superhero. Like how many kids in the world would look at that and say, "Wow, that's amazing." Like that's brilliant because not every kid can relate to Batman because they might be missing a limb and stuff, which is terrible. But Cyborg, he's missing a lot as well, and he's able to
mm.
be this not only a superhero but be kind to people. So I think that's a beautiful thing to have, and I think that's why it's hitting people so much that Cyborg is a great character.
Yeah, I've been seeing it on Twitter today, and I think Ray Fisher retweeted it, a tweet earlier of there's a guy an Asian guy in a wheelchair. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he just said like he was saying how the "I'm not broken and I'm not alone" quote was like,
Yeah,
I needed to hear that today, and Ray retweeted that, and it's just like that for people who may like not see representation is that big a deal, and just be like, I don't care who I'm seeing on the screen, I just want them to be cool, I want them to be a well-written character and stuff like that. There is that extra level that you don't particularly, you may not see, but to somebody like that who sees, as you say, a black superhero, whatever, disabled black superhero, being front and center of this movie and being like the driving force, and essentially, as you say,
yeah,
becoming one of the most powerful beings, and not the butt of a joke, and actually being integral to the plot, is for a lot of people that's got to resonate so powerfully for a lot of people. And we know what Ray has said in the past about Chris Terrio and Zack saying, before they even got heavily writing into the script, they brought him in and said, we want your experiences to be injected straight into the script. And it's like, and
yeah,
it paid off paid it in spades, in buckets, whatever. And
yeah.
yeah, I loved it. I think the moment when he's in the car and he turns around, he's trying to hold his tears back, and he turns and looks at Eleanor, and he's just starting to break down in tears. Like that was one of the biggest like suck at like gut punches of the whole movie. Like I was like, fuck, I feel so bad for him, you know.
Yeah. And one of the coolest scenes in the movie is when they go to Star Labs, and the kind of doors open up, and he's leading the Justice League. He's just standing there, and you have the Justice League members standing there also. But something about that shot, it just seems so real. Like it just seems like they look actually real right now. It looks like you could just place them into our world, and they could be standing there. That's how cool the costumes look, and just the way it's shot. So it's crazy. But one of the characters that made me hate Wonder Woman 84, well, not hate Wonder Woman 84, just think of what they could have did with Wonder Woman 84 was Wonder Woman's action sequences in this movie, especially the terrorist. She's just throwing guys against walls, not giving two shits, and she should, because these are terrorists. They're trying to blow up an entire city. They're trying to kill children, and she's not going to take any chance. She's not going to give them a slight chance to try and give up or anything like that. She's just going to take them on. And I thought the action sequence there was actually brilliant by Zack. And then to look at Wonder Woman 84 and think, why would you go in that direction with the action when this one feels like she's more powerful, and this really drives force that a female superhero can do this. And I like how she had her own badass scene, because in Batman v Superman, Batman has his warehouse scene, Superman has his fights as well with Doomsday. Wonder Woman finally got her big scene here as well, and I thought it was badass. And I was actually taken aback by it, because Wonder Woman 84 was my last experience. I was like, oh, cool, Wonder Woman's back. Yeah, cool. Next minute, a guy's head goes against the wall and there's blood splatter. I'm like, hold on a second here.
Yeah, it's the whole just like tossing him, and he flips upside down, head hits the wall first, blood splattering down. You're like Jesus, all right, like this is the Wonder Woman I like to see. Like, it's like, yeah, I get what you mean about 84, and it's like, you had that kind of, it's strange because you have that disconnect somewhat. Like in the original Wonder Woman, like, all right, she's not as brutal as she is in Zack's films, but I think it's going to be, I don't think many directors would go that far with Wonder Woman, but I personally think it fucking works because she's terrifyingly badass. But yeah, at least in the first Wonder Woman, she was very aggressive and very I don't care. She's fucking people up with her sword, and she's reflecting bullets. She's the final act when she's just getting like super angry and there's like fire everywhere. She's just throwing people around. It's like that was like, holy crap. Zack's Justice League, that is like the pinnacle of a terrifying Wonder Woman. Like, throwing terrorists against walls, just murdering them straight up, and I'm like, okay, like this is really fucking cool. And it's unapologetically like Zack, it's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna have Wonder Woman murder the shit out of these terrorists because, as you say, they are terrorists. They're trying to commit these horrific acts and murder children and stuff. Like, why the hell wouldn't you want Wonder Woman's gonna place them in a corner and just be like, oh, I can't get too mad at you guys. I mean, you just made a mistake. Like, hell no, murder those guys. But I get your point about Wonder Woman 84. Yeah, it's the general tone of that is obviously much more of a light-hearted one, bar perhaps what happens to Steve in the third act or whatever. But it's I do just want to see more. I think that's just the most foundational point. I want to see this Wonder Woman just fucking people up 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Barcelona B goes, if they erase the Snyderverse, Sony people will be beyond mad. Warner Brothers needs to be careful with what they do next. They should have stuck with this Wonder Woman. Yeah, I liked Wonder Woman 84. I liked what they were going for, but I just thought maybe the action should have been better. And that's probably why it's probably a little bit weaker in Wonder Woman 84, because Zack wasn't involved as much. The first Wonder Woman, he was there and he probably helped Patty with the action. This one, he wasn't there, so it was a big loss. But yeah, this Wonder Woman should be the Wonder Woman that moves forward, because I think people are going to prefer this Wonder Woman even more. And just going by the way the reaction around this film and the sales, they seem to like this film more than Wonder Woman 84. And I think she was brilliant throughout the movie. She's like a mother to the Justice League. Like, she's the oldest, and she helps Cyborg with his problems. She's there for Flash, Aquaman. So I like that. I really do. That she's kind of this anchor for the entire team, even for Bruce. She's this mother figure for them all that can help them through their struggles, which I thought was beautifully done. And even like to see her buttons be pushed when Steppenwolf says, "Oh, I killed your sisters," or "Where were you to protect them?" I thought that was brilliant. And she's like, she wasn't holding anything back. She was just going straight for him because he pissed her off. He was brilliant. But Ben Affleck's Batman in this movie is very different from Batman v Superman. A lot more hopeful, kind of a freedom to him, more energy. I think Ben Affleck was he looked free in the role. He looked like he was having a great time, which is a shame to see 2017 version where he looked like he just didn't care.
Yeah.
And then, of course, led to his retirement as the Batman, kind of. He came back from the additional photography and he's back for the Flashpoint movie, but it ended his hopes for a Batman movie and further Snyderverse world. But yeah, he just seemed free. I like how in this movie he's more hopeful than Alfred. Alfred is more kind of a more pessimistic, and Ben Affleck's Batman is more optimistic in this one. So I like that. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I will take this opportunity as soon as possible to say that he didn't kill anyone in this movie. And
Yeah.
everybody that I've had that conversation with, I've said time and time again, I will bet your money that he does not murder a single person in Justice League. And what do you know? I mean, I'm sure like most people probably thought this as well, but it's just like even right at the end where he's on the War Machine, and you see there's those criminals in front of the
Yeah.
tank who are all restrained, and guess what? They're all alive. Like, huh,
Yeah.
wow, who'd have thought it? Maybe Superman's sacrifice actually reflected a substantial change in his character, and he's actually,
Yes.
becoming Batman again, like we would all expect. It's just, it's one of those
Oh,
things.
character development. Oh my God.
What's going on? Like, and then him becoming, as you say, more optimistic and driven by initially by guilt, and then with Superman's return, he's driven by hope and optimism and faith. That's probably one of my like top three moments of the whole film was him saying to Alfred that the reason why he thinks it's going to work is because he has faith. We have to have faith. And it's like you go to the Batman and BVS. That guy does not operate on faith. That guy operates strictly on hate and ignorance and power. That's the point of BVS. And it's just like hopefully Justice League would have maybe turned on that light for a few people. Maybe the pennies dropped a little bit and they kind of go, okay, yeah, I get that now. And that's his arc, and he has his moments of guilt and how when they're gonna resurrect and Cyborg has the nightmare vision and he's like, I don't care, do it. You gotta bring him back. You can tell that he's just being driven by nothing but guilt at that point, and he's like, this is my chance to make amends, and if I can bring him back, maybe that'll right a couple of my wrongs. It won't absolve me of my crime, but it will help my own conscience. So he doesn't care what the repercussions are. If he was acting purely on reason and logic, he might have said, well, why? Cyborg, what's going on? But no, he's like, do it. And it's like, wow, actual character progression. And I think I saw the IMAX teaser for BVS when it came out, like the last week or so. And in the trailer, there's the bit where he pulls the cover off the bat signal and he turns it on. And I was just thinking to myself, like, that Batman that we see right there, that, as I said, that this is the Batman that is just, he wants to kill him at all costs. He is an alien. He wants to destroy him. He's terrified of him. He's committed to his. He doesn't care if he dies or not. And then I'm just thinking, like, what about the Batman that we're going to see in Justice League? And then eventually you see it and you're like, this is beautiful. He's actually completely 180'd on that position. He's now the leader. He's the Batman that Zack was going to make him, and it's happening, and he's actually it's beautiful, and it for people like us who have liked BVS from the off or whatever, or really came to it with the Ultimate Edition. For people like us who over the last few years have just been saying like this is part of his arc, even BVS in and of itself is his entire arc, at the end, but not branding Lex, like the person who arguably deserves to be branded the most. He doesn't do it. It's like, that is just a huge, like, look, I'm giving Batman a character arc, and in Justice League it will continue.
It shows you why the Joker's still alive as well, because he was still contemplating what route to go down. And probably Joker knew, shit, this Batman actually really killed me, so I'm going to stay out of his way for a while.
Yeah.
Because like Alfred throws the newspaper at Bruce, and he goes, new rules. Like the newspaper has him marking criminals, and then Affleck's like, well, we've always been criminals, Alfred, that kind of thing. And his whole perspective has changed now going into Justice League because Superman sacrificed himself for humanity. This alien that I wanted to kill has more of a heart than I do, more of a will for this world than I do. Changes everything. He has to get this league together because they have to defeat the threat that's coming. And I just thought it was so hopeful. Even my favorite line probably from the movie is they're on the Fox. What's the plane of his called?
Fox, I think.
Yeah, the Flying Fox. And just as he gets onto it, and like, Alfred gives Batman his cowl. And And Batman's like, he'll come, Alfred. He'll be here,
Mm-hmm.
And then Alfred's like, what makes you so sure? Fate, Alfred, fate. So I just thought that was absolutely brilliant. The score kicks in,
Mm-hmm.
Flying Fox swings around and then goes towards the battle, and I thought that was just really well done.
Yeah, definitely one of his best moments throughout the whole film. I loved it, and that was like when it really kind of just like hit me that this is Ben Affleck's Batman becoming the Batman that people want him to be, and hopefully
Yeah,
maybe people will think back to BVS a little bit more and think, oh, they weren't actually saying that he's a good guy here. They were at no one point. I'd argue that BVS is one of the films that makes the biggest deal out of him, of Batman killing, and saying that this shouldn't be a thing. I think we've had this conversation before in a previous episode of Movie Buffs where, it's like the Dark Knight trilogy obviously does. I think the Dark Knight Rises is the only one that, actually no, scratch that. Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. Actually no, scratch that again. All three films, yeah, do make a very explicit point about. I was just remembering the scenes in my head. I was like,
yeah,
Dark Knight Rises, he says no guns. Then in the Dark Knight, it's all about Joker trying to get him to break his rule. And then in Batman Begins, you have like, I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. And it all just clicked in my head.
yeah,
But then right at the end, he just straight up murders Talia and a henchman. But this film is like, and this arc that he's on, it's all about how, like, yes, this is what happens when he goes too far. This is what happens when Batman isn't Batman anymore.
yeah,
This isn't what he should be. And I'm not telling you that this is how he should be. And everyone's like, oh, Zack doesn't get Batman. Batman kills, and it's just like, do you guys actually watch the movie? Like I saw another tweet again about how this it was a tweet saying about all the things that Justice League sets up for other movies, like Martian Manhunter movies, Justice League sequels, the Batman solo project, Atom movie, all of this stuff, right? And this guy the first comment I saw was a guy saying, this didn't do any of that. I was like, what? Like, how do you get that reaction from this film? How do you watch 4 hours of this movie and go, this didn't set up anything? Like, just, some people just definitely did not watch the movie. At least all the criticisms, or the overwhelming majority of criticisms I see for like Endgame and Infinity War and any other Marvel, at least they're like criticisms from people who've actually watched the movie and actually paid attention. It's
and
infuriating.
like these are character arcs or development. Like we have Superman from Man of Steel. He's still on his character arc.
Yeah,
Eventually, he will become Superman, but he has to go through some shit to get there.
yeah.
And Ben Affleck's Batman, that redemption, he's now Batman again. I would argue that in Batman v Superman, we don't see Bruce Wayne until the Marta moment,
Mm-hmm.
and I would argue we don't see Batman in Zack Snyder's Justice League until the Nightmare timeline with Joker. So I think he's gone back to his Batman v Superman days in that timeline. And of course, why not? Because the world has gone to shit. He's probably the cause of it. He's lost Alfred. He's lost his son, his parents, maybe his love. I don't know if he found love or anything like that. But, he's lost everything again. So that's why he's resulted back to the Batman v Superman Batman with Joker. Like, I'll fucking kill you. Look, that's a great line to show, Jesus, this is the Batman from those days. So, yeah, I love the character arcs, developments. People were criticizing that Superman wasn't in the movie that much, and he isn't in the movie that much, but he's a presence from start to finish, really.
Mm-hmm.
He's Marty Kent's going through a lot, Lois is going through a lot because of Clark's absence. And the League, their whole purpose of getting together is for Superman. And even Flash goes, he was my idol.
Yeah.
And then Superman comes back, he has his moments with his mother and his wife. He comes back, he saves the League. I would have liked a little bit more interaction between him and the League, like him and Batman have a conversation, maybe a little bit more, or maybe Flash, something like that with the League, or this is Aquaman, this is Cyborg introduced, maybe. But I'm sure that will happen in part 2, like in Justice League 2. I'm sure they will have a few moments together. But I thought it was perfectly done. Like I actually forgot about Superman in the end fight.
Yeah.
I forgot about him, and until because Steppenwolf was walking behind Cyborg and he was doing the thing with the mother box, and I actually thought that Steppenwolf was going to chop Cyborg in half or something like that. That's what I thought was going to happen. Then Superman comes down and goes, "Oh, I'm not a fan" or something like that.
Not impressed.
Yeah, not impressed. Yeah, I thought I was. Oh my god, Superman! I forgot he was even in the movie, and he comes into it and saves the day. So it was cool.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's like, I mean, here's the thing, right? If they bring him back sooner, then everyone's like, what's the point in killing him off if you just bring him back in the first hour of the movie?
Yeah.
It's like, what? Now you can't win. Like, when do you bring him back? And I'm like, as you say, the whole film, the whole reason why the events of the film happen is because of Superman. The whole reason why, the League, as you say, the League comes together is because of Superman. The biggest idea that they have is to bring back Superman. Superman helps save the day in the final fight. And also, one of the biggest distinctions that I also loved was the fact that this is a conversation I've had with a friend recently who, after, he watched the 2017 Justice League, he said, the biggest thing I dislike about Superman, I guess, in Justice League is the fact that when he comes in, it's just, okay, fight's over, job done. He does everything. The League's struggling, and then Superman comes in and he just does everything. He didn't need the League, right, to win the fight against Steppenwolf in 2017. And then you're like, okay, well, that's actually a pretty valid criticism. But then you watch this and you're like, okay, well, Batman was the one who put together the entire plan, which worked. He's also the one that dragged all the parademons off so that everyone else could do their thing. He saved Wonder Woman. Then Wonder Woman saved Batman. If it wasn't for Cyborg, then they wouldn't have been able to separate the mother boxes. If it wasn't for Flash, everyone would have died. It's just Superman came in right at the end, and I think they probably would have been able to take out Steppenwolf if it wasn't, without Superman. But everyone had a job. Everyone had a role. Everyone did something. And it's like, how do you just completely remove that? I mean, especially Flash. I think Flash and Cyborg, I think obviously the best. And I think that scene of him going back in time was one of the best scenes in the whole movie. Like, the score kicks in and he uses his dad's words, just saying, I want you to know your kid was one of them, best of the best. Like, that was just, the score is, it's beautiful. But I could easily rewatch that bit at the end. But the overall point I want to make is just that the final, chapter or the final act, everyone has purpose. Everyone has a role. And without any one member of the League, they fail. And it's like, if you can do that in an ensemble movie, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, if Superman didn't come down, Cyborg would have been hacked in half, and maybe the boom tube would have opened, Darkseid maybe would have come in and would have been powerful and maybe took out the rest of the League. So Superman coming was important, but everyone had their part to play, as you said. But I actually thought Steppenwolf was a great villain. I actually felt for him at sometimes. You could see the emotion in his eyes. He looked like he was about to cry a few times. It's like a sadden wolf, they should call him, because he looks so sad sometimes. But yeah, he was on this redemption mission to make up for Darkseid, because I'm guessing didn't really say that he tried to overthrow Darkseid or maybe turn on him or something in Apocalypse. But yeah, he's looking for these mother boxes to get redemption. I just felt for the character a lot, and he's a brutal villain. He didn't hold back. He was killing people. He was trying to find out information. I thought he was, of course, a lot better than the 2017 version, but you just felt for him a little bit more, and I liked him as a villain, even though he's a bad villain. He did some terrible shit. But yeah, I thought some of his dialogue, and I just thought really cool villain.
Yeah, especially my favorite part of Steppenwolf, the whole movie, is when Silas has the mother box and he's just taking it from the car park and he's going to put it in the in the to market or whatever, and it's where Steppenwolf is like slashing through the doors and he climbs in, and he's like like twice as high, so he has to really like crouch in to get in, but he just looks so intimidating. Like Silas, if he doesn't go in there with the mother box, like, has no hope in hell. Like he's gonna die here, and you just feel like this is this train coming towards him that won't stop. So yeah, for me that was like probably like one of the scariest moments of the movie, because it's just this, he's slashing through the doors, climbs in because he's just huge, and a beautiful moment, beautiful moment.
Yeah, and way better than 2017 version. The look, dialogue, the action, just R-rated, slicing and dicing some Amazons as well.
Yeah,
they didn't, and they sacrificed, like, that was a pretty cool sequence as well. The Amazons sacrificing themselves for the mother box, pretty emotional stuff. But yeah, Steppenwolf was a great villain, and possibly up to one of the top villains I've ever seen in a comic book film, because he had an interesting arc. He accomplished a lot of things, he did, and he hurt the Justice League too, and he nearly won.
Yeah, he was extraordinarily close. Had Superman, not dropped down, I know it's the the Superman Ex Machina or whatever, but like, if Superman hadn't dropped down at that point, he would have just murdered Cyborg, and they would have lost. Like, end of. He was literally like seconds away from winning. As we saw with the fact that the unity does happen and whatnot. Like, that's a good villain. If a villain is like scary and he has purpose, and you can actually kind of feel sympathy for him, and like, that's a really, really good villain. And it's just, he was terrifying. He had everything, and his design was so original. I fucking loved his design. Like, seeing we knew going into the film that his armor was going to be reactive and responsive to the situations that he was in. But it's like when he's before Desaad or when he's before Darkseid, the armor is flat, and you think like a dog with its ears back, kind of out of fear.
Yeah.
Like, and then the armor eventually like all fades, comes off of him because of out of like respect for Darkseid or whatever. But then when he's like in battle and he's the head honcho, it's all spiked up and he's scary and he's terrifying. And it's like, well, it's that two sides to him, He is this scary ass motherfucker, but then as soon as he's with his superiors, he's terrified and his armor like comes off and he's trying to. He feels so insignificant at that point. One thing that I really wish was actually done in the film was I really would have loved the sharpness of his armor to like make an impact in fights. Like him punching Aquaman or something when they're underwater, having that like slice his cheek or something like that. I thought that would have been like, I mean, his hands were actually didn't have armor on them, but maybe with like the Amazonians when they have to fight in the on Themyscira, when they jump on him, it would have been pretty cool if like when they're trying to like stab at him, they're just getting all cut up by his armor, or like one of them's jumped on him and he just kind of like tenses his shoulders and the armor just impales them with like 100 stabs. I was really hoping we were gonna get something like that. So I that's probably like my biggest criticism of the movie is we didn't get to see the armor do stuff like that. We did get stuff like he's got like 6 arrows in him and he just kind of tenses his whole body and they all just snap off. Like, that's fucking cool. But seeing him use the armor solely just to kill someone, I think that would have been really, really good. And it would have given him an extra level of protection against the League because they wouldn't have been able to get close enough to, just like start ripping the armor off or something. I thought that's my two cents.
I like in Snyder's films how he kills the villain. Like the villain is not like most of the villains die, like General Zod, Doomsday, and now Steppenwolf brutally killed all 3 of them, kind of, and I like that because like Marvel movies love them as well, but the villains usually survive for another day. Michael Keaton's Vulture is going to come back. Different villains like that always kind of survive, but they kill Thanos and different villains like that. But they're not ultimately doing that every time. But yeah, I just like how someone dies at the end of the movies because there's a battle, there's a fight going on, and it's always like the schemers, the rats to get away with it, like a Lex Luthor or a Joker. They always seem to survive.
Yeah.
Either way, but yeah. That was brilliant. Even Ray Porter's voice as Darkseid, so intimidating. The CGI work was actually better than I thought it was going to be for Darkseid. Really, really good. And yeah, Desaad as well looked brilliant. Granny Goodness, just the whole look of Apocalypse. The parademons were actually a threat in this movie.
Yeah,
because in Batman v Superman, it looked scary. Each individual parademon was like, oh my god, that could be a threat. This one, each individual parademon was a threat. One of them hurt Flash.
Yeah,
2 of them were giving Batman a hard time. So parademons were actually a threat in this movie, and that's something that I appreciate.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And it's that the parademon threat led to like again one of the best moments in the movie, the fact that Flash gets shot and he's trying so hard because he doesn't want to fail the League, and he's just trying like he's not saying over the comms like I've been shot, give me a second, I'll be alright. He's just really trying to hold back his tears because he's like, no, I came so close to helping that I'm gonna fail them. So he's just like, come on, and then that leads into his turning back time, and it's just again one of the most powerful moments because you just see like his innocence as a character there, and like knowing that he's not really been in a situation like this before. I mean, none of them really have, but especially for him, just to have that point of like, come on, I don't want to let them down, and making up for it in one of the best ways possible. It's just like, and to go back to what you said about Darkseid, in the teaser, the Steppenwolf Darkseid teaser that we got before the film came out, like I could hear Ray Porter in the voice, but then when it came to all the other rest of his lines or whatever in the movie, like I could not hear Ray Porter at all. I just heard Darkseid, and it was insane, like really, really good. And I appreciate that because it's like I guess it's like with Thanos, when you hear Josh Brolin talk, like I just go, oh yeah, I can hear that. Well, no, a really good example would be James Spader, voices Ultron.
Yeah.
Like when you hear James Spader talk, you can just hear Ultron. If you have a voice actor who can do the voice for a character and make it so different from their voice that you can't really pick them out, it's for me that is a really impressive feat of skill.
And even Thanos looks like Josh Brolin. They look similar enough, they're on their cheekbones and stuff. So yeah, I do appreciate like you would not know that's Ray Porter very much like, but Heath Ledger's Joker. I still can't see Heath Ledger in that
Yeah.
Joker from 2008. I still can't hear it, and I still can't see him. That's amazing. That's just pure amazing acting from Heath Ledger. But here it's just amazing like CGI work and stuff like that, and voice work from Ray Porter.
Yeah, and I think it displays like a very, very, high level of skill to be able to completely differentiate yourself across characters and whatnot. Like,
Yeah,
and hey, he does appear. Ray Porter does have his cameo earlier in the movie.
seeing that, yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Saw that, and I was gonna go pause it and go back and see if that was him, but I'm like, no, I just have to watch this straight through.
Yeah.
I can't stop to do that every time I see something because I'll be here for
Hmm.
like 3 days straight.
But the history lesson was pretty good as well, different and some good action.
Hell yeah.
One of the Green Lanterns put up a fight against Darkseid, but then was ultimately killed. Then the ring went off. Darkseid could have been a Green Lantern if he got the ring. He would have been a Green Lantern. Hard to stop that.
Imagine that. It was like as soon as it got near him, like I think everyone's heart just kind of went, nah, no,
Yeah.
and then it went away. It's like so close, so close,
Yeah.
and he got royally fucked up, like seriously
Yeah.
messed up. But that was
Yeah.
awesome.
You had Ares there. You had what else did you have? Some of the other Greek gods.
Zeus.
Yeah, that was cool.
What's her name? That Amazonian with the bow and arrow. Ah,
I probably won't think of it now either. But I'm not good with the Amazonians' names. They're too complicated and hard to pronounce.
it's been one of those things that just hit me in the head, or somebody in the chat will say it. That's actually really annoying. I think it began with an A. I might be wrong, but yeah, her arrow to just shoot down fucking ships. Ares fucking stabbing him in the shoulder. There's so much blood that came out of him as well.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool if, like, in a sequel or whatever, maybe like he gets his armor pulled off and you can just see like a giant wound there.
Cool.
It's like a symbol of his of where he failed before. But
It's funny how Ares was a good guy and helped save the Earth, and then in Wonder Woman 84 he wanted to scorch the Earth. He wanted to be in control, so that was kind of cool.
yeah, I mean, and it was kind of like it wasn't too jarring seeing David Thewlis's face on is it Nick McKinley's his body, this huge fucking head chest dude with David Thewlis's face. It was like it was well done enough, and then obviously should put a helmet on so we can't see it. But,
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome, and seeing everyone work together, and he just had that epic scale and threat that was being posed by everyone, and to see, like, it's just insane, seeing the forces of man, and it's like, okay, it's just like a huge fight, and then you just got like a Green Lantern just flying up above and taking on everyone, and the Greek gods, and it's just to know that we could get might get something like that again in the future, but with the Justice League and all of its members. Hopefully something that differentiates itself from the end of Endgame, because I think you're kind of setting yourself up for a very easy criticism. Maybe just have like the League members and not have sidekicks and whatnot. Just have the League. If that's just like, even if that's like 30 or 40 members, obviously that might be a bit optimistic, but rather than have everyone else, just to give you some kind of difference between Endgame, because I think, as I said, I think that's just you're asking for everyone to just go, oh, you copied Endgame, and
our story was written first, actually. DC story was written first, but
it was.
But anyway, the Justice League fight against Superman was pretty good as well. I liked it more this time because I thought the editing was better. The Kal-El no actually worked.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as cheesy because I think Zack cut away just at the right time with the editing, or the editing team. Of course, the cool moment was still there, Flash going in slow mo and Superman able to see him, but there was more kind of cooler moment where Aquaman's charging towards him, he steps out of the way. Flash is charging towards him when he hits Aquaman. Then Wonder Woman takes him on. And then Batman is just standing there looking at Superman like, oh no, I'm fucked. I am fucked. But he was prepared because he had I think it's like a Wonder Woman shield on his forearms to be able to stop him twice. Then this time, Lois Lane is the one who saves Batman instead of Lois Lane saving Superman. So that was a nice kind of parallel there.
Oh yeah. I think that's again, that was just like this. It was definitely done in a much better way. Just him like constantly just walking towards Batman. It wasn't like he sees him and then just flies over and hits him. It was just, I'm just gonna walk towards you. And Aquaman tries something, Flash tries something, Wonder Woman tries something. None of it works, and he's just not stopping. You think, Batman actually gonna fucking die here? The hell,
Yeah.
this guy's just terrifying to face off against. There's also the on the memorial they had Ben Parker was written on there, and I need to check this the
Yeah.
second time round because I could have sworn that I saw Hans Zimmer written on there as well, but
Oh,
I need to check that again because obviously I didn't see Ben Parker's name the first time around because I just thought I saw like Zim and I was like, does it say Hans Zimmer? And
yeah.
but that's a nice little Easter egg, you know.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. And Lois saving Batman was awesome, and yeah, and he plays off with Lois. But yeah, like the whole film was a big ride, and I enjoyed it all. You know, I thought it was fascinating. It's a very different looking film than Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
Mm.
The cinematographer is different for all three. The aspect ratio is different from all three. The score is also different as well because Hans did Man of Steel. It was Junkie and Hans for Batman v Superman. This time it was just Junkie.
Mm-hmm.
But then this was a completely new score that they only made the last while because the old score from 17 he had used in different products. So yeah, it just that's why three of them feel so different. And this one didn't have as much media influence, didn't have much kind of civilian influence, you know, kind of way. So it felt more like of a just a character study with these heroes. So I appreciated that, but it's hard to rank all three of them because I think it's kind of like Lord of the Rings. It's just it's a story. It's Star Wars. It's a story. It's just this trilogy of stories with these characters. So for me, it's hard to pick which order, which is the best stuff, because to watch Man of Steel, the consequences of Man of Steel are in Batman v Superman. The consequences of Batman v Superman are in Justice League. So it's hard to pick.
And it's I love the I think that's definitely one of the best parts of the whole trilogy is how they just flow from one to the other, and you know it's rare to have a film that's literally like, okay, the last scene that you just saw, I'm just gonna start with this one, like have the consequences like an Infinity War to Endgame type deal carry over. You see that, you know, fairly often, but to go from that scene to that, I mean, I guess they I'm being a bit too generous to Endgame and thinking that they did that, but yeah, it's definitely one of those ones for just the continuity of the story because it gives the whole thing it's a really easy way to just give it a bit more cohesion and you know linearity to the whole story. So it'd be, you know, quite interesting to see how Justice League 2 is going to kick off. You know, when it happens. I'm not saying if because I'll touch wood on that one, so you can't all blame me for that. But oh hey, at least we can watch our Batmobile TV show or whatever it is that they announced a while back.
Yeah,
we can just
awesome.
look forward to that. Who cares about Justice League 2 and 3? You know, the biggest IPs. We want to watch Batmobile TV show. That thing might be amazing, right? Maybe the best TV show ever made. But people, just give us Justice League on the side as well, all right? Come on. I'm sure we could just fundraise this shit and get it done ourselves at this point.
But this movie is huge right now. The critics score, I know it's kind of dropping in Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not too worried about the Rotten Tomatoes score anyway. But to see it so high originally was pretty cool. It's probably going to drop down to 60s or maybe 50s. But I don't really care about that. What really gets me is the audience score is even bigger this time around. It's like 98 or 97.
It's 96 at the moment with over 10,000 ratings.
That's pretty good. Like that's good. Like I think the fans are the one who paid the money to see these things. So that should automatically mean more than critics. You know what I mean? The audience score should be the one that studios look at because, damn, the audiences are general audiences who don't even care about critics and just want to watch a movie if it appeals to them through the marketing and stuff like that. But yeah, I think this movie is a huge hit. I think in Brazil it broke some records as well.
Yeah, I saw that. It was 100. Wonder Woman was like their most like rented movie, and Zack Snyder's Justice League did like 140% of Wonder Woman 84's numbers. So
crazy. Awesome, and I suppose a lot of people are sitting at home as well, not much to watch, so it definitely helped Zack Snyder's Justice League coming out in quarantine. I think for the next movie, if it does happen, it has to be on HBO Max. It has to be a streaming movie. Put the budget in there because Mandalorian is a big budget. WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, The Boys on Amazon.
WandaVision was like 250 million. Like I'm sure Zack could do a second Justice League movie with like less than that, you know, if they wanted to be really tough, you could shoot them back to back, you know, cut down on you'd save a hell of a lot of money by doing that. I'm not an expert, but why not?
And with back to back, you could say, okay, Jesse Eisenberg, we have you for 11 days. And Jesse shoots all his stuff, and that's Jesse out. That 11 days he's done. You pay Jesse Eisenberg there. That's awesome. Next, you have whoever characters are going to be in the most scenes together. You got Henry Cavill or Ben Affleck. I have you guys for 30 days. That's it. They shoot the movie in 30 days, and that's it. and it minimizes the cost it would take for the actors to be brought onto the project. So there's going to be a lot of CGI stuff, I'm sure, as well. So you can do
Mm.
that with Parademons, with Darkseid, with DSAD. That stuff can be done in a short amount of time, like shot as well. Of course, the effects will take a while. So there's a way to shoot Justice League 2 and 3 back to back and to minimize the cost. The actors wouldn't be on set as much. A lot of post production work. I think it's possible. And this movie is proven to be a massive hit right now. Everywhere, even critics like it as well. Most critics do, and fans seem to love it, and it just seems to be a mega hit. It does. I don't see it. It's not a flop. It's not a flop.
It couldn't be anything further than a flop. And I was just checking on IMDb. It's currently ranked 91 out of IMDb's top 250 films of all time. But that's saying it's at 8.3 stars. But if you go onto the actual page of the movie, it's at 8.5, which at the very least would take it up to 48. So
Cool.
of all time, like it's like, oh yeah, Zach, you made a film that got into the top 50 of IMDb films of all time. No, we're done. Cul-de-sac. It's like, really? You just cannot see that happening.
I think what's probably number one, Dark Knight, is it?
Number one is Shawshank Redemption.
Cool.
Dark Knight is fourth.
All right, I was just thinking, like, if you have a massive fan base, you're probably helping because they go to that page and just give you a 10 out of 10.
But then the counterpoint, and I've had this argument with a couple of people on Twitter, shouldn't engage with them, but it just happens sometimes, where people are like, oh, audience scores are irrelevant because it's just Zack's cultists who are all reviewing it up. And I'm like, right, but you're saying that like there aren't people who are just going on there to review it down, right? And also another thing to think about, mathematically speaking, if it's already at like 8 out of 10, giving it 9 or 10 out of 10 does a lot less to pull it up than ranking it 0 or 1 does to pull it down, right? Because you've got so much further to go down than you have up. So it's like, there's going to have to be a hell of a lot of people who are giving this 9, 10 out of 10 just for the sake of boosting the ratings. It's like, but then, in part, the audience score is also reflective of the people who watch it. And if the majority of the people who are watching it are Zack Snyder fans, then they are the audience. Just because you're a Zack Snyder fan doesn't mean that your rating counts for any less than anyone else. But over the course of like the weekend, the people who are going on IMDb to rate movies are your movie buffs. The people who are like really into movies and shit. So they were probably likely to be a little bit more objective than the people who love Zack or the people that hate Zack. So over time, that score will eventually just balance out. The people who love him and the people who hate him will just cancel each other out, and then the people who are objective about movies or don't have any say in how they feel about Zack's movies will then guide the score. And the fact that it's fluctuated from like 8.9 to 8.3 to 8.7 since reviews started coming out, it's like it's a pretty good sign. But
yeah, exactly. And I think it's all good, like, because if you want to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League and you press play, you're on HBO Max server for 4 hours. That's exactly what they want. And then you probably, like, we probably didn't take a break, but I'm sure other people did take a break. So maybe you're on it for 5 hours. Maybe you're on it for 4.5 hours. That's you on Sky Cinema or on whatever you're using it on in the world, on HBO Max. You're on that platform for 4 or 5 hours. That's what they want. That's what they want. And if Zack was able to make a part 2 and it was another 4-hour movie, that's what they want. They want more engagement. And I think they need that Mandalorian, The Boys, WandaVision type of hype. And right now they don't have anything on HBO Max to deliver that. They've got some nice shows, Flight Attendant, Raised by Wolves, Lovecraft Country. I think maybe that's not on that. But like they're not this level right now of a WandaVision or a Falcon and the Winter Soldier where people can't wait to watch them. So they need to do something quick. And like Justice League Dark with J.J. Abrams, I don't even know if the script is done right there yet. Like how long is that going to take? Right now the hype is for Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's not for this unknown Justice League Dark movie by J.J. Abrams that nobody knows anything about. It's for more Joker, more Batman, more Superman, Aquaman. It's more of these characters. How can you deny a fan base that wants to pay so much money for it? And like the last few years, the two movies that Warner Bros. Didn't want was the Joker and Zack Snyder's Justice League, and arguably they're the two biggest talked about DC films of all time.
Yeah.
So like that just shows you, are the people who are making the decisions the right people to make the decisions?
And to go for what you're saying is the point about oh god, I've completely forgotten my point now. This is really annoying. What's it saying? Oh, I had a really good point. You made me forget it. God damn you, sure. I think it was just something like when you're thinking about as you say, with people who are on the streaming services, it's like, oh, I'm gonna watch it for a couple hours or whatever, and then I'll come back to it tomorrow. It's like after you finish watching it, if you finish on a break, or when you come back to it another day, you get onto HBO Max, you get onto Now TV, or you get onto Sky Spin, and you're like, oh, that also looks really good. Maybe I'll check that out. And then, you just have that, you have that gateway, right? And it's just, it would be just insane for them to pass up someone like that. Oh, yeah, that was one of the points I was going to say, is obviously when Disney had their investor day, they were like, oh yeah, here's like 20 Marvel shows and here's like 400 Star Wars shows because, we just, Mandalorian, WandaVision, whatever, this shit's fucking successful and people want to watch stuff. People want this stuff. They're not getting bored of it. Oh yeah, and I remember the second point. Oh wow, that's incredible. Let me write down the second point before I forget it. So, god damn, I feel like I'm having some kind of illness right now. I'm forgetting everything right as I say it. So, yeah, that's it. So, but when it came to HBO Max, they were like, oh yeah, we're going to do a Peacemaker show. And everyone's like, okay, I'm not like angry that you're doing that or whatever, or hating it or anything. I mean, people who don't like James Gunn, obviously, but, that happens with every project. But there's like, okay, and what else? What else are you going to do? What else are you going to do on HBO Max? If HBO Max is like this is the Disney Plus of DC, like, where's the DC stuff coming? And it's like, oh, here's a Gotham show. And you're like, okay, well, Gotham PD. You're like, all right. I think one thing that a lot of people have talked about and, acknowledged is that perhaps a large chunk of what is potentially to come is contingent, or was contingent, on Justice League's performance. If Zack delivers a Justice League that people really, really love, then hell yeah, of course they're going to be thinking, all right, let's get a Ben Affleck Batman show if we can do it. Let's just bring in all of these Snyderverse concepts and bring them onto HBO Max, and people who love Zack Snyder's Justice League, which a lot of people do, and I cannot believe I actually get to say that feels incredible.
Yeah.
Like, they want more, It's like, you look at WandaVision, that ends, and people who want a bit more of Marvel, they waited like, what, a week, 2 weeks, and now they have Falcon and Winter Soldier, and
then Loki.
Yeah, exactly. And you are going to have...
Then Black Widow.
Yeah, you're going to have Marvel content.
Then Eternals.
For like a year.
Then Eternals.
You're going to be so happy.
Then Shang-Chi.
And it's like, that's the point. It's like...
Then Spider-Man 3.
And then Doctor Strange 2, and you just keep on going and going and going. But it's like, when it comes to Disney Plus specifically, it's like, okay, now that you've had, Justice League, and I think the sensible thing is that they're just going to give it this weekend and let its momentum carry it through the numbers. They don't want to say, okay, after one day, Zack's going to do sequels, because then some people, then the performance of Justice League and how many people watch it and how many people get accounts and whatnot might not be determined specifically because of Justice League, but because of the announcement. So I think the sensible play is just to let its momentum ride out and see how it performs organically, right? See what kind of figures it can pull organically without any statements to kind of hype it up outside of advertising and marketing. So, and then obviously, the first weekend is when the majority of the general audience are going to be watching it. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. Let it ride out through the weekend, get the stats, and things get announced.
Yeah.
So I think that is obviously the sensible thing to do. The other point I wanted to acknowledge is that I think one of the kind of apprehensions that Warner Bros. Had was obviously runtime on the movie. And, there's this general comment that went around, I think, that the audience is, like, too dumb to watch a long movie. They don't want to watch a long movie. And it's like, well, hey, here's a 4-hour movie, like one of the longest films ever made, one of the longest blockbusters ever made, and people fucking love it. So to say that runtime, coming out in cinemas, yeah, okay, I could definitely see it. People going to watch a 4-hour movie in the cinema, definitely going to have some apprehensions about. But when it's on streaming, and we've had this conversation numerous times, when you have the ability to pause it wherever you want, when you've purposely structured the film so that you give organic points for it to pause at, title cards that say, hey, here's when you could pause the movie. But obviously as it's streaming, people can just pause it whenever the hell they want. Like when people have that autonomy and people have that decision-making ability, they are not idiots. They can stomach a 4-hour movie. And as, a lot of people are saying, it just flew by. So, yeah, those are the two big points. So I think in terms of announcements going forward, I think we just got to ride out today and tomorrow. And then I think when we start to see the big numbers come in...
enjoy the know. every day is helping us because
Exactly.
you see, like if it was announced yesterday, all right, everyone's cheering, but today you find out Brazil crashed.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it could be, I think in some places in Asia it crashed as well, the HBO
It
Max
did.
Go app or something like that. So who's to say? Just for example, it probably won't. But tomorrow Sky Cinema crashes. They probably won't because UK. Just to say, like France could crash. That helps it every day if you have all these platforms crashing because the engagement levels is insane. So yeah,
And
I
HBO
don't
Max
want
as
to.
well. It had HBO
Yeah,
Max crashed, like in the
yeah,
US, I believe. It had that huge spike right as the
yeah.
film dropped. It just everything fucking flatlined. Like that's
It's
good.
crazy.
That's what you want.
Yeah, and then we'll get more things. We'll probably get more interviews with Zach. Maybe something. Maybe the cast might drop something. Maybe some other statistic will come out that would really help our cause. Then you could gather all these stuff together, put them into a big ball, and say, "Here, look, this is what we did." So how
Yeah.
can you not?
I'd be very surprised if the conversations haven't already been had.
Yeah,
I would be.
yeah.
I think it's quite ignorant to think that nobody at HBO Max or Warner Media or whatever, AT&T have just gone, hey, look, this is making us a shitload of money. I don't care what petty shit you've got going on in this department. Can you just make a sequel, please? Because that made us a lot of money. So like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just go like, it's a money game? I think this is what Grace Randolph says all the time, and I think any sensible person would say it as well. It's just about the money. Unfortunately, there are a couple of execs who don't seem to care about money, seem to care more about ego and shit like that. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's a money game. If this is the biggest thing that's ever hit HBO Max, why wouldn't you do more? It's just like a no-brainer.
Just say it wasn't Zack Snyder Justice. Just say it was Tom and Jerry, and that was the biggest thing ever to hit HBO Max. What's the first thing they would do? Let's get into the office here and let's discuss what are we doing next for Tom and Jerry. Yeah. Why should Zack Snyder's Justice League be any different?
Exactly.
It shouldn't be. So let's just go and do it.
And it's like, it doesn't matter about, at this point, audience reception of Man of Steel and BVS are completely irrelevant. If Zack can say, hey, look, when I got to do my film without anybody telling me what to do, and I had full control creatively, and I got to release it on a streaming service, and it got insanely good reviews, it went really fucking well. Like, it's just... it'd be ridiculous, but I'm sure like the parent company, Warner Bros. Is not the top dog. They are, one half of Warner Media, and Warner Media being the parent, and AT&T being the parent, the grandparent. I'm sure somebody at AT&T would be like, yo guys, I really don't care what's going on. I don't know what Justice League is, but apparently we made a shitload of money of it, so please can you just do it again? Like, and that's it. That's all. I mean, again, I'm not gonna pretend to know all the ins and outs, but you have to think that somebody like Jason Keeler is going like, okay, like, why are we even having a conversation?
And they put, like I learned after that, the hashtags they use, they put in sorry, like a hiccups in the middle of the stream, but they put emojis at the end of the hashtags. And to do one of those emojis is cost 1 million each.
Jeez.
So they did one. They did one for Batman. They did it for all the League members. Darkseid, Steppenwolf. They did it for hashtag release Snyder Cut, hashtag Zack Snyder Justice League, hashtag Snyder Cut, hashtag Us United. You're talking about nearly 15 million. Sorry, 15 million on emojis for a movie that's a cul-de-sac. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I think that pretty much just tells you everything you need to know. Like, it's just but then again, if it wasn't for like studio execs and egos and whatnot, won't we be in this position in the first place? It's just, how is there not a conversation being had about the likes of Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada saying like, okay, why are you guys in these positions? Like, yeah, okay, you've done a lot of good stuff in terms of, well, let me phrase that very carefully. You've made us a lot of money. Good is a different question, but you've completely dropped the ball on this one. And again, I think one of the things that helps them a lot is it's predominantly the Snyder Cut community that's like, we have somebody to point the finger at. The general audience is just like Warner Bros. In general. But maybe, Warner Bros. Will kind of see that as like, oh, this is bad PR. Let's get rid of these guys. And we can say, because of these guys, we can specifically target these two people and say, because of them, you guys didn't get the Snyder Cut a few years ago. And that's the film that you wanted to see, didn't you? I mean, have to be careful you don't get sued for, libel and slander or whatever, but it's like, you have a scapegoat then. You have a way to say, okay, it wasn't us, it was just those guys. We can blame them. Warner Media, I'm going to give you Justice League sequels because you want that, and you're going to subscribe to HBO Max. And it's like...
Yeah. But look, the movie's a success. We're enjoying it. Yep. It's a great time to be a DC fan now, hiccups. Mhm. But yeah, I try and speak quickly because of the hiccups don't come. But yeah, it's a great time, and I'm enjoying the ride, and the
Oh
online
yeah.
engagement is. It's great to see. I never really cared about critics and stuff like that, but
Mm.
it's nice to see a movie that you like do well with critics as well,
Yeah.
being talked about in a good way. So it's better than the movie being absolutely shit on, because then you're depressed, then you're like, fuck, these people hate this movie and they're talking about shit about it, but I love it. So
It's some nice
it's cool.
vindication for being a fan of Zack's movies for years. It's like finally people are all like, oh, this movie's really good, and it's starting to change opinions on BVS and Man of Steel, and showing like a bit more cohesion that people weren't potentially looking at originally, and it's like, thank you, As you say, the
Yeah.
important thing is to just enjoy the now and be grateful for the fact that we actually just got this movie full stop, and then it then becomes a case of, okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe the path is there for more, and if there isn't, like, what the fuck are you guys playing at,
Yeah. But that's it, and it's a good time, and I'm enjoying it. I hope everyone else is enjoying it as well.
I, if people aren't, they aren't, but I think anyone who hates Zack Snyder, if I, the optimist in me, if I had to state anything, it would be that, you're not going to be very happy for a few more years, I don't think, if you don't like Zack Snyder. So, but
Yeah.
that's the optimist in me speaking. It could be that this is the end, but if this is the end of Zack's road with DC for whatever reason, it was a fucking damn good way to go out. Really
Yeah.
good way.
Yep. Perfectly said.
I'm gonna write that down. It'll be my quote.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna slap that
But
on a Justice League case.
yeah, exactly. But if you want to continue the discussion, I think tomorrow, Lewis, we're having the Nightmare discussion on my channel.
We are.
So
We're gonna
Batman
go
v
to the
Superman.
Middle East and with guns
Yeah.
and really commit to the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But the Batman v Superman timeline of Nightmare and then just discussing theories about what we think it all means, and what exactly timeline is each timeline in. Is it all the one, or is it different timelines? Because it's hard to know. The broken card, I can't wait to talk about that part.
Yes, exactly.
Did you spot that?
Yes, I did. I did.
Yeah, it's
Right as
class. I
as
love it.
Superman comes down, you see like
Yeah.
the bottom half of it. It's just whoa, chills, man, chills. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We've got a lot to talk about. So tomorrow, Sean's channel,
Yeah.
7 p.m. probably. All the juicy stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for your time, Mr. Sean, right there. And
Thank you.
we'll have some nice music to play out whilst you try and get rid of your hiccups. Bye. I gotta play some music, but they can still hear us. Don't worry, I'll mute you.